in case you don't know. One of the cool things about them, the reason that the numbers are kind of low in the bloodstream is due to the nature of what they do. They are actually, a lot of them, the majority of them, are going to only spend a small amount of time in the bloodstream before they migrate to tissues. Well, they migrate to different tissues of the body based upon what type of white blood cells they are. Are we talking about a neutrophil, basophil, eosinophil, lymphocyte, monocyte? Which one are we talking about is going to determine where it'll begin to migrate. In comparison to the red blood cell, their structure is definitely more complex. They keep their nucleus, which is identifiable. I don't know if you guys remember looking at the slides. Okay, the nucleus stained that purple in the bigger cells, where red blood cells were just tiny. All right, and one of the things that this nucleus, which contains the genetic information, which means it has the chromosomes, all right, how do you think they get DNA information from blood samples? They don't get it from the red blood cell unless there's an immature one that they can get to. They get it from the white blood cells that are in the blood because they have the nucleus with all of the genetic information. Their biggest job, for some of them, they need to give rise to lysosomes. Do you remember those from General Bio and Part 1? A lysosome. What do? They break down stuff. Stuff that if these white blood cells encounter it and see it as being foreign material, it's their job to get rid of it in our bodies. Make sense?
They break down the phagocytosized material that the white blood cells ingest.
They will phagocytize foreign, but once again, our white blood cells attack different things. So it will depend on what is the invader. Is it bacteria? Is it viral? Is it parasitic? Is it an allergen? So based upon the invader will determine how, well, first of all, which white blood cell is going to be needed and how it's going to act. One of the things we mentioned at the beginning of the chapter, in this cell type, we had our granulocytes and our agranulocytes. The ones that were the granulocytes were termed that because all of those lysosomes, okay, they stain and they look like rocks inside the cell. So they termed them the granules. Under the granulocytes, we have our neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils. Their lifespan is short. usually just days. Okay? 5, 7, 10 days. Not long. All right? Our neutrophils, when you do a blood count, and under normal conditions, they are the ones with the highest count in a blood count. So that little white blood cell count portion, neutrophils would be highest in number. All of these cells are identified based upon the structure of their nucleus. Each one has a very unique nucleus. That is how they are identified when they're looked at. The granules are those lysosomes. It is the job of the lysosomes to be antimicrobial, not antibacterial, antimicrobial, microbes, the stuff that's going to try to invade the body. A neutrophil is aggressive. Well, first of all, it's the one that's in the highest number, okay? And yes, they are very aggressive against bacteria. Wait a minute. Is that the only thing that I can get invaded by? This is why we have all the other ones. So neutrophils are against bacteria. In the case of an invasion, that's what I call it, when we have something foreign invade us, because that's what has happened. They rise in number. So, you know, I don't know, maybe like pneumonia that's bacterial in origin, neutrophils would be high in the blood count. Okay? Eosinophils, they're kind of cool. They work against the parasites. I think about really crazy parasites like the worms that can get in. Cool, right? Okay, so eosinophils, their number is lower. However, their number is high in the mucous membranes. Oh, whoa, hello, why?
That's where parasites try to hide.
Because the mucous membranes line the openings of the body. Anything that opens to the exterior of the body is lined with a mucous membrane. That would be, for the most part, the area of entry for what the eosinophils attack. The eosinophils, they have chemicals in their little lysosomes that can destroy parasites. For example, hookworms, tapeworms. They have inflammatory chemicals. Well, what? What? Inflammatory? Well, what is it to the openings of my body that might create an inflammatory response? Allergens, mold, pollen, allergens. They're going to have antigen, antibody complexes in their chemicals. And they're going to have the ability to work against allergens. So therefore, they can work against allergies, those parasitic infections. They can work against collagen diseases. Why? The three fibers of the body: collagen, elastic, reticular. Which one is in highest count in the areas that the membrane lines? Collagen, because it's right next to the skin. Diseases of the spleen, because the spleen is reticular fibers. And when something infects the central nervous system, eosinophils tend to rise in number also. Basophils, they're usually the lowest in number. So once again, under a normal blood count, their numbers should be minute, very low in number. Now, they secrete histamine. Sure, you've heard of that, right? Because you tend to maybe take an antihistamine when you have an allergic reaction to something. Yes? No, maybe? Okay. Histamine itself is a vasodilator, meaning it helps to make blood vessels dilate. When that happens, the blood vessels are more permeable. And this means it speeds the flow of blood to an area. For example, okay, right now, I don't really want to use an allergy. Let's think about okay, let's go with our good old standard, paper cut. Okay, so at the time of a paper cut, we know that if that little bit of blood will, because of basophils and some of the other cells, we speed the flow of blood to the injured tissue. That allows for other parts, other components of the blood to rush to this area. So if I had a paper cut, one of the things that's happened, I have now breached the inside of my body to the outside environment. And this outside environment is full of stuff. It's full of viruses. It's full of bacteria. It's full of chemicals, toxins, you name it. Okay? Well, because I breached to the outside world, okay, my body is working to make sure this stuff doesn't enter. So by having the blood flow increase, I get to bring in, wow, what do you see listed right there?
Eosinophils and neutrophils.
I see neutrophils, which are most high in number, which means I have a whole bunch of them, and that means they can get there quickly and they can start fighting. Other white blood cells can begin to rush to the other. Clotting factors rush to the area. All these things rush in. Also, they can secrete heparin. Ever heard of that? How?